A couple things that I'm going to miss about mom. The biggest and foremost one that I'm going to miss about her is that whenever we would go to visit, whether it was in Idaho or Arizona, I feel like no matter what time it was, she always came out, whether it was in her pajamas or it was during the day, she always came out and was ready to give me and my family a hug. And we were all so excited to see her and dad. And I just love that she was ready and there to welcome us into her home. Another thing I'm gonna cherish is I like playing hand and foot. It's a lot like a game called canasta that my grandma and I used to play. But to this day, Mom is the only person I have ever seen get a wild book. And I'm sure some of you guys have done it, but you've never done it when I played with you. And that's a memory. I remember her getting it that time, and I'm just being in shock because I had never seen it because I've tried. It's hard. And so I remember that day that I played with them and she got that wild book. Another thing I'm going to cherish is the memories I have going on 2 cruises with her. I loved the one that we went with right before COVID as a big family. That one was a lot of fun, and I'm grateful for the pictures and the memories I have from that one. And then going on Nate's birthday cruise, I'm really grateful that mom and dad got to go with us. And I just remember her in her cute little hats on the boat and being excited to go sit in the hot tub and having dinner with her. That was a good time. I loved when she came and stayed with my family when we lived in a rental, and she would give my girls at the time, because we didn't have Keegan, she would give them a cute little spa day and painted their toes and massaged their feet with lotions and oils. That was a fun one too. And at that same time, I remember her introducing me to these like chocolate coconut bombs. They're so good, and I'm pretty sure I have her recipe. I'm gonna have to make them sometime, but those were a yummy treat that she shared with my family. I'm just really grateful I have the pictures, and I'll remember the memories. I love listening to her play the piano. I always wish I could learn how to play the piano, and maybe I will someday. But I love that I have the video of her playing on the piano not too long ago, and she was good at it. It was just fun to listen to her play. But I'm definitely going to miss mom, but I'm very grateful I had the time I did with her and have her in my life, and I'm very grateful that I was able to be loved by her, because there was without a doubt she loved everyone and welcomed everyone in, and I'm very grateful that she made my younger 2 feel like family when they were welcomed in to the family when Nate and I got married. She didn't hesitate. She didn't skip a beat. She just loved my girls like they were her grandchildren, and I'm very grateful for that memory I have of her. I'm definitely gonna miss mom. There's a hole in my heart, but I love her, and I know she'll pop around here and there, I'm sure, to be with our family. And so, but I love you, mom.
I'm Michael, and I remember how good my grandma's hugs made me feel.
Hi, I'm Alex. Grandma loved me so much, and I loved her too.
Hi, my name is Laurene Mihu, and I am Laurene's daughter-in-law. I married the handsome number 7 in the family, and my memories of mom are filled with beautiful times. Family gatherings, holidays, vacation trips. Mom always made these times so special when we were together. Right after marrying Jeremy, I remember moving to the United States of America, and I got to celebrate my first Christmas with Jeremy's family. And mom was incredible. Her house was filled with people. She had her children and their spouses and her children's babies, all her grandchildren, and they were babies, toddlers, preteens, teens, so the house was really full. I remember being so new and just watching everyone, observing everything like a sponge. And immediately, it didn't take long, immediately I could tell that Mom was filled with love for everyone. She was kind and she was patient, and she loved playing board games with the grandchildren, and she loved putting together puzzles, and the grandchildren loved it too, and watching movies together, and I loved that too. Making big meals. I still remember all the huge crock pots, just smelling delicious in the kitchen, and the delicious desserts she made for everyone. Mom just knew how to bring everybody together, and she managed to do all this with so much love and kindness towards all of us, including me. And I really appreciate that. I know Mom truly loved her family, and Mom loved with all her heart. I loved her for that and her example for me on how I should treat my family and my posterity. She was the best example of love towards all of us.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremy. I am Laurene's 7th child, and that will be important later, so remember the number 7. I have so many great memories of my mom. Some of the earliest are her reading the Book of Mormon to me and writing or drawing stick figures in it to depict the people, Nephi, his brothers, and those stick figures helped me to understand and follow the story better. I remember she had these books and cassette tapes that went with them about the modern day prophets, and we would listen to those, and she would teach me about the church and the gospel, and I really loved and appreciated the time she spent teaching the gospel to me, and it really has blessed my life. When I was in high school, during the summer between my junior and senior year, I really struggled to find a job, and I had applied many places. I had talked to people I knew, and I just wasn't able to find one. And my mom came to me one day and asked me if I wanted her to fast for me. And being a high school kid, I was like, yeah, whatever, sure, that'd be great. She fasted for me, and that week I got a job, and it was a job offer from somebody who had already told me they didn't need any help and they couldn't hire me. And so it really was a blessing to me and strengthened my testimony and showed me the faith my mom had. And it was not the last time I asked her to fast for me. Mom loved being with her children and grandchildren. And I remember so many Christmas parties at her house where the house was just packed and busting at the seams, but she loved having everybody around and always loved everyone, no matter how stressful or loud it was. One of my favorite memories of teasing her, I think that we as kids, we kind of pushed the limit sometimes with the way we would tease Mom. But I had gone on a high school trip, and I came back, and in the mall, I had found a stud earring that was magnetic, and so I had put that on my ear, and I walked into the house, and she saw it right away, and I told her, "Hey, Mom, look what I got while I was gone." And she started walking towards me, and I knew that she was going to rip my whole ear off if I wouldn't have shown her that it was not a real earring. But I'll never forget the look on her face, and I'll never forget the way she laughed that laugh of, "Oh, that you really got me, but it wasn't that funny." And the reason that that number 7 comes into play is she looked at me and said, "I should have stopped at 6."
My name is Andrew, and my favorite memories with Grandma were anytime I got to play a board game or a card game with her.
I didn't get to spend an extensive amount of time with Laurene, but the time that I did spend with her, she always struck me as so kind and gentle. I was always impressed with the thoughtful way that she had, not just with me, but everybody around me. And I've got to say that I was always impressed by her seamstress abilities. I never knew anyone made ties. I mean, obviously people make them, but I didn't know that people just sat down and made them. And she made me one year for Christmas, and it was beautiful. And her quilts were also amazing and very impressive, and I was always amazed by her skill with that. I always loved seeing her, loved being around her, getting big hugs from her, and she'll be missed for sure. Love you, Mom.
That was nice.
So probably the best memory that's going to stick with me is how we got to be able to spend Friday evenings, Melanie and I, with both Grandma and Grandpa, or Mom and Dad, playing hand and foot. We always used to tease them about how they had rook magnets because they could always get these wild cards in their hands. Pretty much every hand, it seemed like. And we would struggle to get anything of a wild card. But we always just enjoyed, no matter who won or how it turned out, we just enjoyed the time together. But on a long-term note, the thing that I remember most about Mom is how everything she did seemed to be geared toward giving. She did things for people as a natural course of events for her. Almost without thinking, it was just a natural way for her to live. She walked with grace in a way that will stay an example for me for the rest of my life.
Okay. So a few things I remember about Mom is that she always wanted to look pretty. She always was painting her nails or filing her nails, or she always had to put lipstick on. Always. She always had that tube of lipstick in her purse. And no matter where we were driving, because we did a lot of road trips, we'd get out to go to the bathroom or something at some gas station, and she'd pull out her lipstick and reapply it. And she just always wanted to feel like she was done up. Going along with that, I was the youngest, and I was quite a bit younger than my next closest sister, and I struggled with figuring out how to do hair. I mean, obviously I still don't do great. I don't enjoy that normally, but I went through a phase as a teenager where I loved playing with other people's hair, and she would always let me play with her hair. And she never had a ton of it. It was generally fairly short, but it was always so soft. I just remember that her hair was so soft, and I loved running my fingers through her hair. One of my favorite memories right now is actually one of my daughter's favorite memories, but she didn't feel confident enough to share this, so I'm going to share it. But we came down a few months ago to visit, and Mom she was going in for surgery for a kidney stone while we were here, and my one daughter and I went to the hospital or the surgical center with Dad and Mom, and we waited for her to come out. And when she finally came out, she was still, a little groggy on the on the medicine. I can't think what it's called.
Anesthesia.
The anesthesia. Thank you. And we get all of us get in the car, and she's like pulling her seatbelt on or something, and somebody said something that made her laugh, but she snorted instead, and it was the loudest snort. And she was mortified because she's from that generation that you ignore that your body makes noises or anything, but through her mortification, my daughter was dying laughing that Grandma had made such a noise. And it is still, my daughter lights up when she thinks about that, and it's gonna be a favorite memory of her grandma for a long time. And then one of my favorite things to think about, like when I was younger, I really struggled to find my voice, my personal voice, my inner voice, whatever you want to call it. And I remember, I'm one of the youngest of a lot of kids, and so it was really easy for me to let my siblings talk for me, and so I wasn't forced to figure out who I was or what I wanted, because there was always somebody else around that would say what Kimberly wanted, But as a teenager, when a lot of my siblings had moved out, and we had moved back out to the country, and a lot of my siblings were gone, and I just felt really, really alone. And I remember my mom, I would go into her room almost every night after dinner and after the dishes were done. I'd go in her room and we would just talk and talk and talk. And honestly, I don't know if my mom said more than 2 words, but she just let me talk and let me be me. And we would do that night after night, and I would stay in there until my dad would come in and he'd kick me out because it's time to go to bed. And thank goodness he did, because we'd never get any sleep otherwise. But I could not tell you any of the words that my mom told me at that time, but I just remember that time with her and feeling like at a time where I felt alone and forgotten. A lot of times I knew that she saw me and she loved me, and she just loved to be with me. And I will always hold that precious in my heart. And I'm so grateful to her for the love that she showed everybody. She was so good at showing people love, no matter how they needed that. She just kind of instinctively knew how to touch people and how to love them, and I love my mom.
My mom loved Christmases, and so one thing I remember about Christmases was that she always insisted that Christmas morning we had our rooms all clean, so that had to happen the day before. And then Christmas morning we would get up and we had breakfast together as a family, and then we could go into the front room and see our stockings and open gifts one at a time, to watch everyone open their gifts, so that it was just a super exciting time, but you got to share it with everyone in the family. And I remember that was really hard when I was young, because the excitement was just so much, and it would build and build and build, and we were like so impatient, and why can't everybody eat breakfast faster so that we can get to our stockings. But as I got older, I grew to cherish those traditions, and want some of those same things for my own family so that we could enjoy the whole experience. And I was so excited to share Christmas with my mom and so grateful that we had had those rich experiences as a family. And I just loved her enthusiasm for Christmas and that she would listen to Christmas music for 2 months before Christmas and for a month after, and just her childlike joy over the season. Okay, one thing about my mom that I remember is that she was super thrifty. We grew up with so many kids and just on a budget all the time. So one thing that I really enjoyed with her after we moved to Idle Falls was that she would get the ads and we would shop with the ads. And so she would find all the things that were on sale, look at the different stores, and then we would go with a route and a purpose. And so we would go into these different stores and we had things that we wanted, but she was very meticulous about her shopping list, and we got everything on this list, and we went into this store, and then we went to that store, and then we went to that store, and then we went to that store. And I learned so many lessons from her about sticking within a budget and how to plan and prepare for a family. And I was just grateful for those lessons. Okay, my parents were new to parenting when they started, and not the greatest parents to start out with, Dad. So they had to practice, and they practiced on 10 children. So it was over and over again. One thing I remember about them is that they continually worked to improve. And so they would go to these parenting workshops, or like the church would like have a parenting seminar, and they would go, or they would go to what's it called, the BYU thing?
Education Week.
Yeah, Education Week. They go to Education Week, and they would take these parenting, whatever related to parenting there, and they would come back. And as soon as they came back, we kids would dread it because all these new things would get implemented. And we'd be like, oh, okay, it's going to change, and it did. And it got better each time, like they just got better and better, but you knew it was going to be strict for a little while. But one time I remember, the strategy that they had is they came back and they were like, we are going to spend individual time with each of you kids. And that was unheard of because there were so many kids. And the only way they could figure it out is like, we're just going to we have 12 of you, we're going to take one, you get a time once a month. And so my little date with Mom and Dad was I got to go to Downey and go to a restaurant and spend time with them individually, and it was amazing. I don't think I had ever been one-on-one with Mom and Dad that I can remember. And so that's kind of something that I remember that stood out to me. But now as a parent looking back, the concept of it is incredible to me, that they saw that they weren't where they wanted to be and continually tried to improve and improve and improve, and were willing to make those adjustments that were necessary. And I'm so grateful for that. And to me, my mom was a model for that as I try to be a better mother.
So I remember when Mom and Dad first moved down here from Idaho. They lived in a travel trailer on 4-acre property that Melanie and I had. And I remember one morning Mom making breakfast for us and just how enjoyable it was that, and it struck me that even though they were living in this travel trailer, she just made it comfortable and made it a home. And it just told me a lot about where her heart was, that no matter where she was or how the circumstances were, she made it work, and she made it work in a way that you didn't feel like there was a sacrifice. It was just enjoyable.
Mom had the most wonderful green thumb. I think she took that she got that from Grandpa Bodley. He had amazing flower gardens and the magical park that was the family park that we just loved going to see. Mom had flower gardens. She had Ron build a rock wall for one of his scouting projects, and it just added beauty and variety to our home, and I just really appreciate that about Mom. Mom taught me how to love sewing. She taught me, I must have been in 4th or 5th grade when I had my first sewing project. It was a 4-H project, a little wraparound skirt, and from that point she just instilled in me that I could be creative through sewing projects. And I've made some of my own clothes, and recently I've reconnected with sewing, and I have been making quilts like Mom used to do, and I just will forever connect the talent of sewing with my mother. One of my favorite things growing up was to do Mom's hair. She would sit on the ground and let us just do whatever styles we wanted, and I just remember there were some times that she would almost fall asleep, so I know that it wasn't as terrible as what it sounds for her. I think she enjoyed it almost as much as we did.
I remember one time when I was fairly young, probably 6 or 7, and apparently Mom thought that you don't ever say no to somebody at church when asked to do something. So I learned that very young because I had been asked to give a talk in primary and I said no. And my mom found out about it, and guess who was given a talk in primary the next Sunday? Me. Mom dealt with depression a lot as an adult, and when I had my own times of depression, the very first time I ever had it, I didn't know what was wrong with me, and I thought I was going crazy, and I just couldn't cope with life. And somehow my mom and dad both knew what was going on, and they showed up at my door one day and said, "You have depression and you need to get it treated." And they stood there while I called and got an appointment to go get some medicine, and they made sure that I followed through. And that was probably one of the best things they could have ever done for me, because I would have never known to go get help. One of my favorite stories of Mom is that she came up for Jordan's missionary farewell, and it was winter time. And we were going to get set apart at the stake president's office, so we all got our winter boots on, and we walked out the door, and we went to the stake president's office, and we got home from that, and Mom realized that she was wearing one boot of hers and one boot of somebody's from my house. So she had 2 different boots on, and she said, "I thought it felt kind of weird." But I have laughed about that because they were both black, but they did both look different. So it was a good story of my mom.
My favorite memory of Laurene is just the way that she would make you feel. Every time you saw her, it didn't matter if it'd been weeks or months or just minutes, but she always would smile and act like she hadn't seen you in forever, and she always treated everybody that I saw, and especially me, like I was the favorite person in the whole world to her. And I just really admire that about her, and how she was so kind and considerate no matter what she had going in her life. But she always was so kind and considerate and treated me so well.
One of the things that I remember Mom sharing with me when she was on her mission to South Africa, she was teaching piano lessons, and I thought that was very admirable. And then I found out that they didn't have a keyboard or a piano, and she had made out of cardboard keyboards for these kids to practice on. And I just think that just shows the love of my mother to just carry through with what is expected or asked of her, even when she didn't have the tools to do so. So one time, I remember that I really, really, really loved secrets. Mom had cherry secrets, and one day I saw her give one to Ron. And of course, I had to have one. And so I quickly made up some sort of ailment, and I believe it was, I have the worst stomach ache in the world. And Mom asked me, do you want an enema? And I said, yes! And I got one.
And I thought enemas were for headaches. I quit telling Mom when I had a headache until I was in high school when I was sloughing. But I thought also, I quit telling Mom when I was sick because she had lots of things that I didn't like golden seal and cayenne. You got to drink that. On a sore throat, that really, really was painful.
It hurt a lot.
And but I also remember sneaking up into the medicine cabinet and taking baby aspirin all the time because it tasted really good.
I did that too.
It's a good thing we survived.
Mom was a hard worker, and because of her example, she was able to teach me how to work hard. Some of the things that we did together were canning from our massive gardens. As a mom and a canner, I know how much work is involved in putting up food for your family, and she did it, and I never heard her complain about it ever, really. And I just love her so much for loving us enough to keep us fed. A memory that I have of Mom is she inspired in all of us a love to read. She would make sure that we had wonderful trips to the Preston Library where we check out anything from adventure to romance. It was magical. There's just nothing quite like having your mother read you stories, and she would read series of stories to us. Little Women, the Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, the Boxcar Children, just so many of her favorites. And she made sure that we had just good books to read, from the condensed Reader's Digest books that I loved reading. Just so many wonderful memories that I have just because she taught me to love reading. Mom had a tradition of, on the last day of school, she would do treasure hunts, and we looked forward to that so much. She would put all of her effort into having each clue rhyme, and it just was just so fun for all of us to look forward to. It was one of the best days of the year. One memory that I have of Mom is that she just had the most beautiful soprano singing voice. I love to listen to her and Dad sing together. One of the things that she spent a lot of time on that I didn't realize until I was in adulthood, how much time she had to take, was when we would do our Mihu family programs. She would have each child memorize the song that they were going to sing or the poem they were going to recite, and we would go over and over that. But the sheer magnitude of what she did to put those together was amazing. All of us, how did she take each child and help us to learn all of that content? And it was different between each performance that we would do. Sometimes it was geared towards the 4th of July, or it could be just summertime or springtime or Christmas. And it's just amazing to me how talented she was and how she helped to give all of us a love for music and poetry and the beautiful things in life.
My favorite memory about Grandma Mihu? We went over when we were young. I think I was like 10 and 11 or a young teenager. But while we were there, I was up early and Grandma Mihu was making bread and poached eggs, and she took that time with me to teach me how to cook. And that week that we were there, she taught me how to make creamed eggs on toast and all kinds of food. And taught me how to grind wheat. And I miss her. I love her.
One of my favorite memories with Grandma is back in their house in Idaho. I remember she was watching all of me and my siblings, whoever was alive at the time. She was watching us, I think, for just like the weekend, just a couple days. And I remember specifically, she would every day cook us all breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then after dinner, like clean up everything, clean up the kitchen and living room, and do the dishes. I'm sure she was exhausted after watching us, but I remember she took the time to ask me, like, hey, do you want to play ping pong? I was like, I never played ping pong, and she was so patient, helping me learn. At the time, I felt like I was good at it, so she must have been letting me win too. But I just remember every night she played ping pong with me and just like took the time, even though after I'm sure she was exhausted. I just thought that was really sweet.
She wanted me to record it, so I recorded.